as you're aware, the Fortissimo 2 project and Fortissimo belong to the group of projects called I4MS, ICT Innovation for Manufacturing SMEs. And the whole I4MS initiative, as Sylvia said, we're now in I4MS 2, is part of the Factories of the Future initiative. So it's in that framework that we have the Fortissimo project, and then we're promoting the use of innovative ICT for the manufacturing sector, for Factories of the Future. So both projects belong to I4MS, and I'm going to give you an introduction to those projects and then explain later what the specific targets of the call for Fortissimo 2 are and what particular conditions we have for those. So Fortissimo started in I4MS 1. It's running since 2013 and will end at the end of this year. It's not a classic R&D project because it's actually performing business-oriented, business-relevant investigations and demonstrations of using modeling and simulation services, and using those services within a cloud of HPC systems. And the target is to create future business benefits for manufacturing SMEs. Manufacturing and engineering companies are the target. Fortissimo 2 is a follow-up project, and I'll explain some of the differences later. But that started in November 2015, and it has the same sort of approach. So it's performing a whole set of demonstration experiments, looking at creating business value for using high-performance computing in the remote sense, or in the cloud of HPC resources. There is a difference, so you see that in the areas of applications, we still have modeling and simulation, but the focus then is on coupled physical processes. But the wider area is high-performance data analytics, which would be the HPC meets big data, if you like, but we refer to that as data analytics. We're looking for data analysis problems deployed in HPC systems. So there is a difference in the scope in Fortissimo 2 compared with Fortissimo 1. Fortissimo was funded in the 7th Framework Programme. Fortissimo 2 and the current I4MS initiative is funded in Horizon 2020. That has an impact on some of the rules for participation and funding. The overall goal of Fortissimo, both projects, is to make the use of simulation services and now big data services easy for SMEs. So we're targeting the use by SMEs, and now in Fortissimo 2 mid-caps. So trying to bring the benefits that large industries have already been had for many years to these new users. And the cloud infrastructure that we're talking about in Fortissimo is not just compute resources, but actually those resources plus software applications plus expertise and tools. So we want to bring all these services together to help SMEs. What we hope to have is that the Fortissimo will be really the portal of choice for people who wish to get benefits from using high-performance computing. So they go to Fortissimo to find out who can help them, what services are available. We will be, and I'll show you in a second, information about the Fortissimo marketplace, but it's all about bringing services and bringing support to the end user. This diagram should explain the sort of support you can get from the marketplace, but it also is absolutely typical for the sort of experiments that we're looking for. So when you think of the proposals you want to put it together, it really should be end-user centric. So the participants here may be the people that you will bring together in a proposal. So solving the end user's needs, what sort of software they're going to use. Maybe it's from research or research software provider. Maybe it's from an independent software vendor, ISV. We'll use that abbreviation later. Maybe you need some help with bringing that software into an HPC system, so you need an expert. Maybe you need domain-specific expertise. And then within the Fortissimo HPC Cloud, you'll be running these services, these applications on one of the Fortissimo HPC systems. So that picture should be at the center of your thinking when you're putting a proposal together. End user in the middle, solving their business needs. What we then have is a marketplace which actually brings all those players together. So the design of the ultimate Fortissimo marketplace has simulation or data analytics as a service at its top target, and then all the things you need to bring that together, all sitting on top of an HPC infrastructure. We have a number of systems in the marketplace. We have a number of HPC centers providing services. You can find more information about them on the Fortissimo website. There are links to explain which systems they have, what services they're providing, and proposers should at some point be talking to them about deploying services on one of their systems. So I said earlier that it's not a typical R&D project. So what does success mean for Fortissimo? It's not about writing papers. It's about actually creating real business impact. So one level of success is that we complete successful experiments so that we can actually demonstrate what does it mean in terms of business impact to provide access to HPC simulation services that solve problems and bring value to users. We obviously want to make sure that we have successful delivery of core services and have a working marketplace. That's going on at the moment. Fortissimo 1, or Fortissimo original project, was a large project with 60 million euros funding. It expanded via 2 calls to 122 partners. A large number of those are SMEs, and we executed 53, or are still executing some of them, 53 experiments in total. The sort of funding that was available in FP7 for that was between 180,000 to 250,000, typically between 3 and 5 partners per experiment. I already mentioned that we had 2 open calls within Fortissimo. We had very high demand. We received a lot of proposals in those calls, and we were able to expand the initial set through an additional 33 experiments. One thing that will apply to Fortissimo 2 as well is that we organize the project such that there is some level of protection for experiments. The experiments interact with the overall project. They take part in overall project events and have possibilities to interact with other experiments and share information. So we have workshops. There's the Fortissimo Forum. They will need to go to the overall project reviews. But to a certain extent, they're protected that they don't have to share confidential commercial information outside their experiments. And that's very important. And we've also been looking at providing an enhanced cash flow for the SMEs, which is organised by the Coordinator University of Edinburgh. So there is some special constructs within the agreement for the SMEs. I'll show you a few examples that you may well have seen before from Fortissimo. The sort of things we're looking for in the success stories that we want to come out of the experiments. We want to provide benefit for the participants, but actually show to other such companies that there is benefit, the potential benefit from them. So here we have a success story from Slovenia, an SME that manufactures light aircraft. They were able to use remote computing, CFD on the HPC Cloud, to improve their design cycles. So they were 10 times cheaper and 10 times faster in getting their designs completed. Again, manufacturing, but a very different area. This is an SME based in Italy making specialized steels, and they used simulation to reduce waste material, this slag carryover, whatever slag is. I'm not an expert on that, but essentially waste. So they were able to, on average, with using simulation instead of their manual or experience-based approaches, are able to reduce the loss of material, and that led their predictions that they would save between 420 and 600,000 euros per year. So that's a significant impact for that company by using ICT technology. A very different application. This is actually in the maintenance of large industrial complexes, or often in the oil and gas sector. This is a Spanish SME that manages these industrial installations, and as you can see from this diagram, that's a very large piping system or a flange, and they need to make sure that there's no loss of material or no leakage. So the target is how to best handle the maintenance procedures for tightening such flanges. And they were able to save time, and they were able to save money for each sort of operation they had to do. So for that, for their products, they expected that they could save for their customers 5.4 million euros per year. A very different application. This is a Scottish SME that provides software for doing heat and comfort simulations for urban planning, large buildings, large hotels, looking at radiation, how best to design the building to manage heat transfer from sunlight. Very important in some Middle East countries, where one of these examples is there. And what they were able to do was show that they could get 50% reduction in costs. And what they now do is that they offer a sort of service to their customers who continue to use their software through web applications, but in the back end, this is being actually executed on HP systems at the University of Edinburgh, or potentially in other systems. So their end users are able to make use of HPC without actually knowing they're doing so in a normal situation. Finally, I get to show a very cool automobile. This car was actually demonstrated or presented at the Hanover Fair this year. One of its customers was kind enough to agree for this hyper sports car to be shown at the fair, and I believe Commissioner Oettinger was quite interested in looking at this automobile and finding out why we were demonstrating that. And the point was that this car is manufactured by a Swedish SME. They, again, as we saw, a bit like the aircraft case, they were able to use HPC-based CFD to improve their design. Now, this is an extreme case. Most of us don't drive at 440 kilometers an hour, but for those sort of sports cars, what they managed to do is improve the design to have much higher downforce, which keeps that car on the road instead of taking off. And they were able to reduce times in design and development, and therefore reduce the time to market. So there was a business case for them to do that. There are more examples that you can find on our webpage. There was a brochure that came out last year, but there are some other success stories. You can see the sort of impact that we're looking for with the success stories, and in fact you will see the sort of reporting that we'd expect you to come out with at the end of your experiment if you're successful. So that was Fortissimo 1. Fortissimo 2 is the follow-up project. It also has a significant level of funding. There's approximately 10 million euros funding for that project. It started in 2015 in November and runs for 36 months. And we will have 2 open calls with a total level of funding of 5 million euros. The first call was already completed. We again had a high level of interest in the project. We received 73 proposals, and the splitting was somewhat along the lines of 2/3 for modeling and simulation of couple phenomena and 1/3 for high performance data analytics. And the split of selected experiments was approximately along the lines of the proportion of proposals submitted. We were able to select 10 proposals and assigned a total of 2.2 million euros funding for that. Those new experiments will start in November this year. So what are the objectives for the currently open second call for Fortissimo 2? The target areas are very similar to the ones they were in call 1. A slightly refined definition of what we're looking for in the couple modeling and simulation. We're looking for proposals that approach couple physical processes, so modeling simulation of couple physical processes. In the FAQ there's more info on that. And again, high performance data analytics. It's very important that we augment the current set of experiments, and of course those in Fortissimo 1. That means we do not look to replicate what we've already done. And the key thing is all the proposals should target benefits for engineering and manufacturing SMEs and mid-caps. So if you want explanations or descriptions what we expect for couple physical processes, there is an FAQ document on the web page, and please look at that. There is examples. An example of what we do not consider to apply is if you're using a single, for example, fluid dynamics code to solve the problem. If you're using a standard code that includes some features like multi-phase or multi-species simulations, that doesn't fall under the category of couple physical processes. Co-simulation or workflows for complex applications, that's the sort of thing that we're looking for with physical processes. The other thing to mention is that unfortunately, when the Commission announced its work program, it didn't define what it meant with a mid-cap. And if you Google mid-cap, you get a rather complex and hard-to-check definition of what a mid-cap is. What we've done for this call is defined which companies will be considered mid-caps for our call 2. And that is a company with a maximum of 2,000 employees and an annual turnover below 400 million. So the SME definition is that which applies for the European Commission. But for mid-caps, we're taking the definition given here. This is also in the documentation, so you can check it. Above that, you will be a large industrial organization. Large industrial organizations are also allowed to participate, but perhaps in support of the SME or mid-cap that should be at the core of your experiment. I will go through the next slides rather quickly because there's information available on the web page. What you see is a whole variety of experiment types and application areas. This is the original set of experiments. So optimization, CFD, multiphysics was also initially a topic, but chemical applications, some of the applications we just saw in the examples. This was expanded after the first call, quite a focus on manufacturing, processes, laser welding, design of camshafts and gears, but also some new topics in marine applications or tidal farm, so some environmental applications. And then again, some new areas, some classical ones, computer-aided engineering for motorcycle helmets or optimization of shapes for automotive design, but some new areas, complex fluids, some more maritime applications, microscopy, biomechanics. Now if we go to Fortissimo 2, you see the shift of emphasis. You see here some real-time analysis of data, big data used for manufacturing, camshaft manufacturing, machining center, vehicle diagnostics. So here you see the data analytics, but then you also see the modeling and simulation of coupled processes. So gas and flame is a complex processes in engine design, or multi-physics simulations, not just of automotive, but here we have in timber and housing, aeroacoustic simulations and so on. So there you see the shift in emphasis of the applications we're looking for, and that's again seen in the experiments that have been selected from in the first call. So you have cloud-based sail design, that's fluid structure interactions. You've got additive manufacturing, so 3D printing, estimation of freight rates, that's an analytics approach, multi-body energy design, an analysis using analytics for copying of books using and avoiding page curling using neural networks. So here you see again the data analytics and modeling simulation of couple processes. So I'm going to move to the end of the presentation with some key points that you should take into account for your proposals. We are looking to impact SMEs that are coming for the first time to HPC. So we will give priority to experiments driven by needs of first-time HPC users. And of course, that means by implication organizations that are involved in Fortissimo for the first time. So we're looking to expand the set of experiments by reaching out to new users that come to Fortissimo for the first time. As before, the emphasis in the evaluation will be whether or not there are really clear exploitation paths and making sure that what you do in your experiment really leads to business impact. So we're not interested in academic experiments, academic exercises. We're looking for experiments to show that there would be business impact and that they have interest to really make sure that that happens and really benefit from the work done in the experiment. We would be happy or we would support experiments that investigate deploying their services in the Fortissimo marketplace, but that is not a prerequisite, but that would be viewed very positively. There are possibilities for partnering with existing Fortissimo 2 beneficiaries. Every experiment needs to include, so in your proposal, you need to have all the partners involved that you need to perform the data. Now that may include, that you need to perform the work. So all the partners involved should be there to make sure that you can deliver on the work plans you have in your experiment. It may be that you include experts, HPC centers, or ISVs, independent software vendors, who are already involved in the Fortissimo 2 consortium. You will be obliged to use the HPC infrastructure, so you do need to get in touch with one of the HPC centres. There's information on the website about all the partners in the Fortissimo projects, and you can then also see what sort of experiments have already been done, who's available there that might be able to help me. Coming now to some key call details, we're being rather strict this time round. We had some difficulties with submissions that were not adhering to the guidelines that we gave, and so we're going to be extremely strict. We have the proposal now is split into two parts, Part A and B. Part A has a cover page and some administrative tables. Please just fill those in and do not provide additional info. If you were thinking of adding in, for example, letters of support, please do not do that, because we will reject the application if you do that. Part B has a cover page and then a maximum 10 pages content. So the cover page has got to include the information we ask for, nothing else, please, and then 10 pages max. If it's over the 10 pages, we will be rejecting it. That means it will not be passed on for evaluation by the external experts. Part A is actually a small document. There shouldn't be an issue with the file size. Part B has a maximum 5 MB for the submission. The submission is as PDFs. We have a tool a portal by which you can do that. That's accessible via the Fortissimo webpage. The deadline, and most important, the deadline for submission is the 7th of December this year at 5 p.m. Brussels local time. So please don't waste your time or ours by not adhering to the guidelines. Please read the proposer's guide carefully and make sure that your proposal is consistent with the requirements. The funding is slightly complicated because we have to follow European Commission guidelines for Horizon 2020. The mechanism for including new partners, that means people, organizations that are not beneficiaries to the Fortissimo 2 contract, is that we will be including them as third parties. However, what we will be doing, even though a new third party will sign a contract with the University of Edinburgh, the coordinator, we will be following the same funding model and principles as for Horizon 2020 project beneficiaries. So the same rules apply. The indicative budget for Call 2 is a total of €3 million, of which we expect to assign $2.25 million to third parties, i.e. to new organizations. The funding for each individual experiment may not exceed €175,000. That means covering all participants in the experiment, i.e. both the third parties, the new partners, and any existing Fortissimo 2 beneficiaries that you may include in your consortium. There is a complication that a rule from the Commission guidelines on open calls is that any individual third party may not receive more than €150,000 for all experiments in which it's involved, i.e. arising from both Fortissimo 2 open calls. So if you were a third party that was successful in the call 1, you need to look at what budget you were assigned then, and only the remainder up to €150,000 would be permissible in a successful call 2 experiment. The other thing is that existing beneficiaries in Fortissimo 2 should not receive more than 25% of the overall funding assigned to the call. That means, in practice, look at your proposal and the guidelines should be that 25% and not more of the funding should go to, maybe assigned to existing Fortissimo 2 beneficiaries. The expected duration of participation, I said the deadline for proposals was December 7th. We will expect the evaluation to be completed in the first quarter 2017, which means you would be notified in the first few months, or second, third month of 2017, after which contract negotiation will be performed, and your experiment would start 1st of May 2017 and run for max 18 months to the end of October 2018. We have, following requirements from the European Commission, there are some additional boundary conditions for participation included in Call 2, which were not included in Call 1. It would be good if the person who just joined could go on to mute, please. Okay, so the new conditions are that we are not able to take end-user companies that were already involved in Fortissimo or Fortissimo 2. So they are no longer eligible to participate in new experiments. And proposals that involve such companies will be rejected. This also includes companies that had taken the role of end-user in a previous experiment, even if they may not have been per se an end-user organization. If you have any questions about that, then please get in touch with us. It may apply to only a small number of consultants or ISVs, but we are obliged to apply that rule. We, in the past, always explained that cross-border collaboration was covered by the project as a whole, and that individual experiments could involve partners from all one country or region. Unfortunately, we are not able to continue with that. We will still accept and we will probably still fund proposals that come from just one country or region. However, we are obliged to promote cross-border collaboration, so that we will make the selection such that the top proposals, or the 80% of the top proposals selected, involve cross-border collaboration. So that will be a requirement on us when we make the selection of the top scoring proposals. What does cross-border collaboration mean? It means organizations from more than one member state in the consortium. So that's the condition we will apply. Does your consortium include more organizations from more than one member state from the European Union? We have a lot of information that you really should read included on the web page. There is an introduction document which explains the call. Most importantly, a guideline, or equally importantly, a guideline for proposals which explains how you submit, what you should take account of, what are the key priorities. We have then templates, or we call them exemplar Word documents. Please use them. We expect you to pick these Word documents from the web page and use them. There are instructions inside the documents how to fill them. We prepare them so it should be easier for you to provide the information that we need. We then have a proposer evaluator checklist. That checklist will be given to the expert evaluators. You can see the questions we will be asking them to answer about your proposal. So that's intended to be transparent. So you can see what are the priorities, what are the key questions that they should answer about what you've written. And then we've got an FAQ document that tries to address a lot of the questions that we've seen in the past and what the questions that we think you may be coming up with. And as I said, if you still have questions, you can contact us. There's the email address that you can use to contact the coordination team for the open call, and we will try and answer your questions. What we can't do is answer questions like, we won't be able to review your document. We won't do that, and we will only answer generic questions about, is this a good proposal, or answering is it a good proposal, we can't do. Answering questions about the requirements that we have, about the priorities we have, about the conditions, we can do that, but we cannot offer a proposal review service or get into discussions with you about the details of your proposal. Okay, that was my last slide. I'll go back and leave that then. So you've got the web page and you've got the email address for any further questions. I am happy to take any questions that might come up now. I'll actually go out of full screen mode so that I can see whether or not people wishing to ask questions. So over to you. If anybody has immediate questions, I'm happy to try and answer them.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm speaking. We're calling from Slovenia. I have one question. I saw that one previous case was related to additive manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
So we are having here laser additive manufacturing, let's say some sort of cloud computing management systems we are developing. And my question is, because of the fact that additive manufacturing was already there as a case study, can we apply, but of course, a different business case?
I think additive manufacturing is large enough a sector that you would be a different application. I think what you need to do is check on the web page what information is available about the additive manufacturing. It's one of the new ones, if I remember right. I will jump up through the slide set. If I remember correctly, it's in here. Yes. So at this point in time, there is very little information available on the web page about that experiment because the negotiation for the third parties is ongoing. So we haven't signed the contract quite yet. So you will find just a very short description. But I think the topic of additive manufacturing is big enough that per se we wouldn't exclude it. So as you said, it would be a different business case. And I think what you can do is check on the end users there.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions or topics people want to raise? Maybe everything was clear enough. Well, as it said, there is a lot of information on the web page. The documentation overall it is quite lengthy, but do please take the time to read it, because that really is the basis for how you should be structuring, how you should be putting your experiment proposal together. We certainly, there are some restrictions, as I mentioned, restrictions on the type of end user, the targets we have, and we really want to avoid that people waste their time in putting in proposals that don't fit what we're looking for. We've made the proposals 10 pages max, so that it really should be not such a major effort if you compare it with the work needed to go into the European Commission proposals, where you need to put a lot of material together. The idea is that you in a short space, explain the idea, explain how it impacts the end user's business, explain what it's for, and what you expect the impact and the exploitation to be. But the exemplar does provide you a framework that you can do that in.
Excuse me, I have a question. Can you hear me? Okay. Yes. I'm Web Petrovich. I'm calling from Spain. When you said that cross-border collaboration will be encouraged, did you refer only to member states, or associated countries can participate as well?
Associated countries can also participate.
So it is only European Union?
The participation is any organization that would be eligible to participate in the H2020 program. So if a country is associated and their companies can participate in H2020, then they can participate in the call, and they would. Maybe my slide's actually incorrect, but if they're eligible for H2020, then they would be taken into consideration in the question: is this cross-border?
Okay, that was the point that I wanted to make, because if there are some associated countries that are eligible, so that I was wondering if it's only strictly European Union, or it can be all other eligible partners.
It's all eligible, yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you very much.
Okay. So to my colleagues at Innovalia, I think if there's maybe no further questions, then maybe people are hungry and want to go for lunch. Or mentioned Spain is not yet time for lunch, but we might want to wrap up.
My suggestion would be to leave it as it is. We're going to upload the video, as I said, so you can check it again. And of course, you can always get back to us or to Fortissimo if you want to have further questions. But they will also publish the Q&A in the website, and we'll have the link to it in I4MS website too.
Oh, excellent, great.
Okay, so I think we can leave it as it is, right?
Yep.
So Good lunch, and see you soon.
And thank you all for your help and for your interest. Thank you.